For a Christian-based sports program, coaches have a much bigger agenda than just producing winning teams. Now, granted, we all want winning teams and we want our athletes to do their very best. But Christian character really is what lies at the heart of true Christian-based athletics. And so I wanted to provide a resource for coaches, for parents, and for athletes themselves to assist them in that process. I think what's missing in some of the devotionals sometimes that students will use is the whole training aspect. And I've tried to bring those two together in a very effective and a very powerful way. For example, a few years ago I was coaching a high school girls basketball team, and we were in our preseason workouts. So they were doing all their laps and sprints and plyometrics and strength training, all the things that a team does to get ready for the season. And this verse came to my mind that I'd been reading in the mornings, and it was Proverbs 20, verse 4. A sluggard does not plow in season, so at harvest time he looks and he finds nothing. So I got the girls together, and they were all catching their breath and taking a moment to rest, and I quoted this verse to them. And I said, you know, girls, what this teaches is if you're not preparing now, if we don't spend time working hard to get in good shape, to get in good condition and develop our strength and agility, when we get to the third and fourth quarter, we're not going to have anything. You're not going to have anything to give, and you can't finish the game with the same level of intensity that you began the game. And I think that principle teaches a lot about preparation, and you can apply that to sports, and you can apply that to all things, you know, in other areas of life. So if the athlete learns that principle through training in sports, just think of how much better prepared they are to apply that same principle when they get in other areas of life outside of sports, off the court or off the field. Well, I think one of the ones that come to mind immediately is the whole work ethic. I think that's a very critical character principle that students need to learn these days. And you think about it in athletics, the ones who have the best work ethic are the ones that really succeed. And you look at professional athletes like Jerry Rice or Michael Jordan, who were known to have this incredible work ethic. And it showed on the court, it showed on the field. The verse like, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. If kids can learn that through sports, they realize that unless they put in the work, unless they work hard and develop that work ethic here, they're not going to be able to perform well on the court or on the field. Another one is peer influence. A verse like, he who walks with the wise grows wise, but the companion of fools suffers harm. I use examples in the book of athletes who've unfortunately derailed their life and their careers simply because they associated with the wrong crowd that led them astray. Managing your temper is another one. A verse that says, a good sense makes one slow to anger, and it's his glory to overlook an offense. You think about athletics, and everybody knows this. Competition can get very intense and very passionate for the athletes, for the parents, and for the coaches. And if students learn now to control their temper, to overlook an offense, and make sure that they keep their eyes focused on the big picture and stay controlled, then they're preparing themselves to handle situations that could be far more, have far more negative impact than just getting a penalty or a personal foul in a sport. So I think those are all, and there's many, many more that we talk about. And we use examples. I use examples from the lives of athletes, both positive and negative, to show how these principles work out. Well, when I first sat down to write the book, of course, the athlete was who I was writing it for. And I tried to set it up in such a way that was interesting and pulled them into the principle, and they could see how that principle applied in sports, and then make the transition to see how that applies in real life. I mean, I use examples from professional and collegiate athletes who've applied it in a positive way, and maybe who've ignored that principle and suffered consequences as a result of it. So that's really the first group. Secondly, for coaches, I think a coach will read this and they'll get a good sense of what the principle is and how this works out, and can use it as an illustration. and can emphasize those principles in practice, in game situations as they go through throughout the whole season. Can emphasize those principles and maybe even set up a goal of these are the 2 or 3 key principles in character traits that they're trying to build in their athletes. And then thirdly, I think parents. Parents support their kids in sports. They come to the games, they take them to and from practice. And I know a lot of times when an athlete is driving home after a game, whether it's a win or a loss, if a parent has those principles in mind, it's an opportunity to talk about those principles and what did you learn from this, and what can you do next time to make it better, and you can take that principle like really what happens that maybe they saw a situation where they really weren't working hard enough, and if they put that principle of that work ethic in place, they would get better performance out of them. So really I think those 3 audiences are who I primarily wrote it for.